The grand conclave of Xylos pulsed with a hushed, anticipatory dread, its crystalline structures humming with the suppressed energy of 1,000 anxious minds. Light refracted through the multifaceted ceiling, casting kaleidoscopic patterns across the assembly of the Xylosian High Council, beings of pure energy, contained within shimmering, bioluminescent shells. For cycles untold, the Xylosians had observed, debated, and meticulously catalogued the myriad species that dotted the galactic tapestry. They considered themselves, with no small measure of justification, the galaxy's foremost archivists, its cautious custodians of knowledge. But now, a species had emerged that defied all their carefully constructed paradigms, a species that inspired not scholarly interest, but a primal, unsettling fear. The central dais, usually a beacon of calm contemplation, flickered with turbulent energy. Councillor Zyl, the eldest and arguably the wisest of the conclave, pulsed with a particularly agitated luminescence. "The projections are inconsistent," he intoned, his voice a resonant chime that echoed through the vast chamber. "Their aggression levels fluctuate wildly, their technological advancements are erratic, and their communication protocols utterly baffling." He paused, allowing his words to sink into the collective consciousness of the conclave. "We have designated them humans." A wave of nervous energy rippled through the assembly. The humans. The name alone seemed to carry a weight of unspoken apprehension. They had emerged from a backwater system, a dim, insignificant star on the fringes of the explored galaxy, and in a remarkably short span of time had begun to spread their influence with an unsettling, almost reckless abandon. They lacked the methodical expansion of the Krill, the disciplined hierarchy of the Zorgan, the calculated aggression of the Vorl. The humans were different. Councillor Lyra, a younger, more pragmatic member of the conclave, dared to voice the unspoken question that hung heavy in the air. "Are they a threat?" Her voice was a delicate shimmer, barely audible above the ambient hum of the chamber. Zyl considered her question with deliberate slowness. "A threat," he echoed. "Potentially, yes, but their threat is not one of brute force or overwhelming numbers. It is a threat of unpredictability. Their history is rife with internal conflict, with self-destructive tendencies. Yet they also possess an almost irrational capacity for cooperation, for self-sacrifice. They are an enigma wrapped in a paradox, shrouded in chaos." Another councillor, Kale, a staunch traditionalist, interjected with a dismissive pulse. "Chaos is merely a lack of understanding. We need more data. We need to observe them more closely. We need to." "We have been observing them for decades, Kale," Zyl interrupted, his tone hardening slightly. "We have poured countless resources into analyzing their every move, every communication, every technological advancement. And the more we learn, the less we understand." He gestured towards a holographic projection that shimmered into existence above the dais. It depicted a human vessel, sleek and angular, slicing through the void with an almost arrogant disregard for the established spatial lanes. "They are pushing boundaries, Kale. They are violating treaties. They are awakening things best left undisturbed." The image shifted, showing a series of complex algorithms representing the humans' attempts to decipher ancient, dormant communication signals emanating from the galactic core. Signals that the Xylosians, in their wisdom, had long ago deemed too dangerous to investigate. Signals that held the key to powers and entities far beyond their comprehension. "They are meddling with forces they cannot possibly understand," Zyl continued, his voice laced with a growing sense of urgency. "They are like children playing with fire, oblivious to the inferno they are about to unleash." Lyra spoke again, her voice trembling slightly. "What do you propose we do, Zyl? Do we intervene? Do we try to?" "Intervention is not an option," Zyl said firmly. "We have learned from past mistakes. Direct confrontation only serves to accelerate their recklessness. No, we must proceed with caution. We must observe, analyze, and contain." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the faces of the conclave. "We must ensure that the humans do not awaken something that will consume us all." The silence that followed was profound, broken only by the soft hum of the chamber and the rhythmic pulsing of the Xylosian minds. The weight of responsibility settled heavily upon them. The fate of the galaxy, it seemed, rested on their ability to understand and control this unpredictable, volatile new species. This species known as humans. Far beyond the tranquil halls of Xylos, aboard the human vessel Dauntless Asterisk, Captain Eva Rostova stared out at the swirling nebulae with a sense of quiet determination. The Dauntless was a long-range exploratory vessel, tasked with charting new territories and establishing first contact with alien civilizations. But its true mission, one known only to a select few, was far more complex, far more dangerous. They were hunting echoes, fragments of an ancient language, whispers from a forgotten age emanating from the heart of the galaxy. Anything, Kai? Rostova asked, turning to her chief science officer, a wiry, intense man with cybernetic implants woven into his temples. Kai shook his head, his face etched with frustration. Nothing conclusive, Captain. The signals are fragmented, heavily encrypted. It's like trying to assemble a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Rostova nodded, understanding his frustration. They had been chasing these whispers for months, following a trail of breadcrumbs left by a civilization that had vanished without a trace. A civilization that had apparently known something about the universe that no one else did. "Keep digging, Kai," Rostova said. "We're close. I can feel it." Kai looked at her with a mixture of skepticism and admiration. Rostova had a knack for sensing things that others couldn't, a kind of intuition that bordered on precognition. It was one of the reasons she was chosen for this mission. "I just hope we're not opening Pandora's box, Captain," Kai muttered, his fingers flying across his console. Rostova smiled, a rare, fleeting expression. "Sometimes, Kai, you have to open Pandora's box to find the answers." Back in the grand conclave of Xylos, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Reports flooded in from observation posts scattered across the human sphere of influence. They were expanding at an alarming rate, establishing colonies on resource-rich planets, forging alliances with weaker species, and continuing their relentless pursuit of the ancient signals. Counselor Zil watched the data streams with growing concern. He had hoped that the humans would prove to be a passing anomaly, a fleeting spark that would quickly burn out. But they were proving to be far more resilient, far more tenacious than he had anticipated. "They are unraveling the threads, Zil," Counselor Lyra said, her voice laced with anxiety. "They are getting closer to the truth." Zil nodded grimly. "Then we must act," he said. "We must find a way to deter them, to dissuade them from continuing down this dangerous path, but we must do so without provoking them, without revealing our own knowledge of the ancient signals." He paused, his mind racing, searching for a solution. The humans were proving to be a formidable challenge, a species that defied all logic and reason. But he refused to believe that they were beyond control. There had to be a way to guide them, to steer them away from the abyss. He just had to find it. He knew he had to tread carefully. The universe had one rule etched in cosmic dust across the eons: don't wake the humans. But they never learned the reason why. They were reckless, brilliant, and utterly, terrifyingly naive. On board the dauntless Asterisk, Kai finally broke through the last layer of encryption on one of the ancient signals. He stared at the data stream, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Captain," he stammered, "I think I've found something." Rostova rushed to his side, peering over his shoulder at the flickering screen. The data was complex, but she could make out the basic structure. It was a map of the galaxy, but not as they knew it. It showed pathways, hidden corridors through space and time leading to a point located at the galactic core. "What is it, Kai?" Rostova asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know, Captain," Kai said, "but I think it's the key to everything. It's the answer to all our questions." He paused, his face paling. "But I also think it's a warning to stay away." Rostova ignored the warning. She had come too far to turn back now. "Plot a course, Kai," she said. "Set a course for the galactic core. We're going to find out what this is all about." The dauntless Asterisk surged forward, accelerating towards the heart of the galaxy, unaware of the forces it was about to awaken. Forces that had been dormant for millennia, waiting for the right moment to unleash their power upon the unsuspecting universe. The humans were charging headlong into that storm, and the Zalosians watched, helpless and afraid, as the first tremors of the coming cataclysm began to ripple through the cosmos. Counselor Zil watched, his energy flickering erratically. The humans were not heeding the warnings. They were driven by a thirst for knowledge, a hunger for exploration that bordered on madness. He had tried to reason with them, to subtly guide them away from the danger. But they were too stubborn, too independent. They refused to be controlled. He considered his options. He could order a direct intervention, a massive show of force that would crush the humans' expansion and force them to abandon their pursuit of the ancient signals. But that would be a declaration of war, a war that the Xylosians were not sure they could win. The humans, despite their apparent recklessness, possessed a remarkable capacity for innovation, for adaptation, and they were surprisingly resourceful. A war with them would be long, bloody, and ultimately devastating for both sides. No, he had to find another way. He had to appeal to their reason, to their sense of self-preservation. He had to convince them that what they were doing was not only dangerous for themselves, but for the entire galaxy. He summoned a communication channel to the dauntless Asterisk, his energy signature resonating across the vast distances of space. He addressed Captain Rostova directly, his voice calm but firm. "Captain Rostova," he said, I am Counselor Zil of the Zalosian High Council. I implore you to reconsider your current course of action. You are venturing into territory that is best left unexplored. You are awakening forces that you cannot possibly control. Rostova's image flickered onto the screen, her face impassive. Counselor Zil, she said, I appreciate your concern, but we have come too far to turn back now. We have a responsibility to explore, to discover, to understand. And we will not be deterred by vague warnings or unfounded fears. Zil sighed inwardly. He had expected this. The humans were not easily swayed. They were driven by a deep-seated belief in their own abilities, a conviction that they could overcome any obstacle. Captain Rostova, he said, I understand your desire for knowledge, but some knowledge is too dangerous to possess. Some doors are best left unopened. I urge you, for the sake of your own species, for the sake of the entire galaxy, to heed my warning. Rostova's expression remained unchanged. Thank you for your advice, Counselor, she said, but we will proceed as planned. The communication channel closed. Zil slumped back in his chair, his energy flickering with despair. He had failed. He had tried to warn them, to reason with them, but they had refused to listen. Now all he could do was watch and wait as the humans raced towards their own destruction, and towards the destruction of everything else. On the dauntless asterisk, Rostova turned to Kai. Did you trace the signal, Kai? Yes, Captain, Kai said. It originated from a Zalosian observation post located just outside our current trajectory. Rostova nodded. I thought so, she said. They're watching us. They know what we're doing. She paused, a thoughtful expression on her face. They're afraid, Kai, she said. They're afraid of what we might find. Kai looked at her with a mixture of awe and trepidation. And what do you think we'll find, Captain? He asked. Rostova smiled, a hint of steel in her eyes. The truth, Kai, she said. We're going to find the truth, and whatever it is, we're going to face it head-on. The Dauntless continued its relentless journey towards the galactic core, leaving the Zalosian observation post far behind. The humans were on a collision course with destiny, and nothing could stop them now. They were about to awaken something that had been sleeping for eons, something that would change the galaxy forever. As the asterisk Dauntless neared the galactic core, the ancient signals intensified, growing stronger and more coherent. Kai worked tirelessly, deciphering the complex data streams, piecing together the fragmented messages. He discovered that the map he had found earlier was not just a map of spatial pathways, but also a guide to activating a series of ancient artifacts, scattered throughout the galaxy. Artifacts that were designed to amplify and focus the energy of the galactic core. Artifacts that, when activated in the correct sequence, would unlock a hidden power, a power that could either save the galaxy or destroy it. Captain, Kai said, his voice trembling with excitement. I've cracked the code. I know how to activate the artifacts. Rostova rushed to his side, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. Show me, she said. Kai displayed the activation sequence on the main screen. It was a complex series of energy pulses, timed with pinpoint accuracy that would resonate with the unique frequencies of each artifact. It's like a symphony, Captain, Kai said. A symphony of energy, and when it's complete, it will unlock something incredible. Rostova nodded, her mind racing. She knew that they were on the verge of something monumental, something that would change everything. But she also knew that they were playing with fire. The power they were about to unleash was immense, unpredictable. And if they made even the slightest mistake, it could have catastrophic consequences. Are you sure you can do this, Kai? Rostova asked, her voice filled with concern. Kai looked at her with unwavering determination. I was born for this, Captain, he said. I've been preparing for this my entire life. Rostova smiled, her heart filled with pride. She had assembled an extraordinary crew, a team of brilliant, dedicated individuals who were willing to risk everything for the sake of discovery. Then let's do it, Rostova said. Let's play the symphony. The Dauntless began its descent into the galactic core, navigating the treacherous currents of energy and radiation. As they approached the first artifact, Kai initiated the activation sequence. A beam of pure energy shot out from the ship, striking the artifact with pinpoint accuracy. The artifact resonated, emitting a powerful pulse of energy that rippled outwards, spreading across the galaxy. The Zalosians watched in horror as the first artifact was activated. They felt the surge of energy, the subtle shift in the fabric of space and time. They knew that the humans were on the verge of unleashing something terrible, something that would consume them all. Counselor Zil summoned a final communication channel to the Dauntless asterisk. Captain Rostova, he said, his voice filled with desperation. You must stop. You are making a grave mistake. You are about to unleash a power that will destroy you. Rostova's image appeared on the screen, her face grim but resolute. Counselor Zil, she said, we know the risks, but we believe that the potential rewards outweigh the dangers. We are not afraid. We are humans, and we will not be deterred. The communication channel closed. Zil slumped back in his chair, his energy flickering with despair. He had tried everything he could to stop them, but it was no use. The humans were determined to follow their own path, no matter the cost. He closed his eyes, bracing himself for the inevitable cataclysm. He knew that the end was near. The end of the Xylosians, the end of the galaxy, the end of everything. But he was wrong. As the Asterisk Dauntless activated the final artifact, something unexpected happened. The energy pulses did not unleash a destructive force, as the Xylosians had feared. Instead, they coalesced, forming a protective shield around the galaxy, a barrier that would defend it from an ancient, cosmic threat. The threat that the long-lost race had sought to warn everyone about. They were not warning them about the power to be found at the center of the galaxy, but rather, that there was something that power needed to defend against. Rostova stared in disbelief as the shield shimmered into existence, its surface radiating a warm, golden light. She realized that the ancient civilization had not been warning them about the dangers of the galactic core, but rather guiding them towards a way to protect themselves. The power was meant to be a shield. It was the only thing capable of stopping the real threat. "What is it, Captain?" Kai asked, his voice filled with wonder. Rostova shook her head, unable to comprehend what she was seeing. "I don't know, Kai," she said, "but I think we just saved the galaxy." At that moment, a colossal entity emerged from the void, its form shifting and swirling like a living storm. It was an ancient being, a creature of pure chaos and destruction that had been lurking on the edge of the galaxy for millennia, waiting for the right moment to strike. The entity lunged towards the galaxy, its tendrils reaching out to consume everything in its path. But it was stopped by the shield, the golden barrier deflecting its attack. The entity roared in frustration, its voice echoing across the cosmos. It was trapped, unable to penetrate the shield. The galaxy was safe. In the grand conclave of Xylos, Counselor Zil watched in stunned silence as the shield appeared, repelling the ancient entity. He could not believe what he was seeing. The humans had not destroyed the galaxy. They had saved it. He felt a wave of relief wash over him, followed by a profound sense of humility. He had underestimated the humans, misjudged their motives, and allowed his fear to cloud his judgment. They were not the reckless, destructive force he had imagined. They were something far more complex, far more extraordinary. He summoned a communication channel to the dauntless Asterisk, his voice filled with gratitude. "Captain Rostova," he said, "I owe you an apology. I was wrong about you. You have saved us all." Rostova's image appeared on the screen, her face tired but triumphant. "Counselor Zil," she said, "we did what we had to do. We are all in this together. We must face this new threat together." Zil nodded, his heart filled with hope. The humans had shown him the way. They had demonstrated the power of courage, the importance of exploration, and the necessity of unity. "You are right, Captain," Zil said. "We will stand with you. We will fight with you. We will protect this galaxy together." The alliance was formed. The humans and the Xylosians, once wary adversaries, now united in a common cause. They would face the ancient entity together, along with all the other species of the galaxy, standing shoulder to shoulder against the darkness. The Dauntless remained at the galactic core, monitoring the shield and preparing for the inevitable counterattack. Rostova knew that the entity would not give up easily. It would probe the shield, searching for weaknesses, testing its defenses. They had to be ready. She gathered her crew, her face etched with determination. "We have a long fight ahead of us," she said. "But we will not waver, we will not falter, we will defend this galaxy to the very end." Her crew roared their approval, their faces filled with courage and resolve. They were humans, and they would never give up. As the ancient entity continued its relentless assault on the shield, Rostova began to formulate a plan. She realized that the shield was not just a defensive barrier, but also a weapon. It could be used to channel the energy of the galactic core, focusing it into a powerful beam that could destroy the entity. But to do so, they would need to find a way to penetrate the entity's defenses to expose its core to the energy beam. It was a risky plan, but it was their only hope. Rostova turned to Kai. "Can you modify the ship's weapons, Kai?" she asked. "Can you create a beam that can bypass the entity's defenses?" Kai nodded, his fingers flying across his console. "I can try, Captain," he said, "but it will be difficult. The entity's energy signature is unlike anything I've ever seen." "Your best, Kai," Rostova said. "We're counting on you." Kai worked day and night, pushing himself to the limit. He analyzed the entity's energy signature, searching for patterns, weaknesses, vulnerabilities. He modified the ship's weapons, channeling the energy of the galactic core into a concentrated beam. Finally, he was ready. "I've done it, Captain," Kai said, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. "I've created a weapon that can penetrate the entity's defenses." Rostova smiled, her heart filled with hope. "Excellent, Kai," she said. "Now let's put it to the test." The Dauntless launched itself towards the entity, weaving through its tendrils, dodging its attacks. Rostova fired the new weapon, the energy beam streaking across the void, striking the entity with pinpoint accuracy. The entity roared in pain, its form flickering and dissolving. The beam had penetrated its defenses, exposing its core to the raw energy of the galactic core. The entity began to disintegrate, its power fading, but it was not defeated. It gathered its remaining energy, focusing it into a final, desperate attack. It unleashed a wave of pure chaos, a torrent of destruction that threatened to overwhelm the dauntless Asterisk. Rostova braced herself for the impact, her hands gripping the controls. She knew that this was it. This was the moment of truth. The wave of chaos struck the dauntless Asterisk, shaking it violently. The ship's shields flickered and died. Alarms blared throughout the vessel. Rostova closed her eyes, preparing for the end. But then something extraordinary happened. The shield, the golden barrier that protected the galaxy, pulsed with renewed energy, channeling its power into the dauntless Asterisk. The ship was bathed in golden light, its systems surging with newfound strength. Rostova opened her eyes, her face filled with wonder. She realized that the shield was not just protecting the galaxy, but also empowering it. It was giving them the strength to fight back. She focused all her energy, all her will into the ship's weapons. She unleashed a final, devastating blast, the energy beam piercing through the entity's core, obliterating it completely. The entity was gone. The galaxy was safe. The dauntless Asterisk limped back to the galactic core, its hull battered and scarred, its systems barely functioning. But it had survived. It had faced the ancient entity and emerged victorious. Rostova stood on the bridge, gazing out at the swirling nebulae, her heart filled with gratitude and awe. She had seen the best and worst of the universe. She had witnessed the power of destruction, the fragility of life, and the indomitable spirit of humanity. She knew that the galaxy would never be the same. The ancient entity was gone, but the threat remained. There were other dangers lurking in the shadows, waiting to emerge, but she was not afraid. She knew that as long as they stood together, as long as they embraced courage, exploration, and unity, they could overcome any challenge. The humans had learned the reason why the universe followed one simple rule. Now they could teach it to the rest of the galaxy. They had awakened and they had prevailed. The grand conclave of Xylos echoed with renewed hope. The Zalosians had learned a valuable lesson about humility, about the importance of trusting others, and about the boundless potential of humanity. Counselor Zil stood before the conclave, his energy shimmering with newfound optimism. "We have underestimated the humans," he said, "but we will not make that mistake again. We will work with them, learn from them, and together we will build a brighter future for the galaxy." The conclave roared its approval, its collective consciousness filled with hope and determination. The galaxy was entering a new era, an era of unity, cooperation, and exploration. An era in which the humans would play a leading role, guiding the other species towards a future filled with promise and possibility. But deep within the void, beyond the reach of the shield, a new threat began to stir. A threat far greater than the ancient entity, a cosmic force of unimaginable power. It was the true reason why the long-lost species had warned of the powers at the center of the galaxy. Not because of the power itself, but because the power would alert something far worse to the galaxy's presence. And the humans, in their bravery and their ignorance, had just sounded the alarm. The next chapter had only just begun.